Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for having me. I'm Jordan Maness, and just delighted to be here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to get rolling. So here we go, and here we go. Um, awesome. So I hope everything's been going so good so far. Today, the title of this talk is Mindset Mastery. Again, I'm Jordan Maness, and you can find me at captaininspiration.com if you want to learn a little bit more about me. Can I share a story with you just to start things off? I would love to do that. So, going back to my college graduation, University of Colorado, Boulder, our commencement speaker, among other things, said, make sure you have some skylarking in your life. And he defined skylarking as a period of time where you have complete lack of responsibility. And I remember turning to my friend and we looked at each other and said, skylarking. Now that's kind of an interesting term. That sounds kind of cool. But I proceeded for the next 2 years not to do skylarking. I took on a lot of responsibility. My first job out of school was sports director at a radio station. And then my second job after that was a consultant for an advertising and marketing consulting agency. And I worked directly with the president of the organization. So, but I did quickly learn a few things about myself through those couple of years, and that's that even though and you all know this, if you're good at something and you like it, that may not be enough if your values are not being met. And I started to recognize that moral fulfillment was probably my number one value among some other things, and I thought grad school was probably in my future to study counseling or therapy or something like that. But before I did that, I wanted to have some skylarking. And so I moved to the skylarking capital of the world for a year, Pacific Beach, right down the road from you all. And had an incredible year where I learned how to surf and had some fun. But I also did informational interviews, and so I have a soft spot in my heart for the UCSD Career Center, because what I did is I did an informational interview one day on campus, but actually with CAPS, with a therapist at UCSD. And after the informational interview was wrapping up, she looked at me and she said, I get a sense this isn't the career you're going to pursue. And I said, I think you're right. I feel like what you're doing is very, very important, but I'm a little sensitive and you're dealing with some very, very serious topics and you're helping people feel normal again. And I said, I want to help people who are starting to feel normal and I want to help them thrive. And what is that job? And she said, well, probably the closest thing on a college campus is being a career counselor. And so I walked out of her office. I had already paid the day pass rate for parking. And so I walked over to the Career Center and I noticed they were having balloons and a big open house that day. And all the staff was in front of the building. I said, hey, wow, what's going on? This is great. So I walked up to one lady. I don't remember her name, but I said, hi there. And she said, are you a student? I said, no. She said, oh, are you alumnus? No. She said, well, who are you? And so then I told her my story. And I asked her, do you like your job? And she said, no, I love my job. It's the greatest job in the world. And that was kind of the beginning of me pursuing this path. And ultimately, I would eventually go to UCLA for grad school and work at the UCLA Career Center for many, many years. And now I'm at CU Boulder working in continuing ed as their career advising specialist. And I love this field. So it's a big thank you to you and your staff and the work you're doing, because I know firsthand just how important it is and how you are changing lives for the better every single day. Okay, before we continue, we're going to take advantage of something that I read about in a book called Spark by Dr. John Ratey, I think is how you say his name. But he basically said that if you do exercise prior to learning something new, you're much more likely to retain that knowledge. So if you are at all capable, we're going to do 10 jumping jacks. If you need to do it sitting down, if you just need to move your arms, whatever it is, let's just do your best. And we're going to do 10 jumping jacks right now. So spread out, get some room. We're going to get moving here just for a minute. I know it's a little awkward sometimes doing jumping jacks in front of your colleagues, but do your best. And let's begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, now you are ready to learn something new. So let's talk about mindset mastery. Get back settled into your seats and let's talk about this mindset mastery, the topic of today's talk. Well, if we're going to talk about mindset mastery, let's define some terms. So, first of all, what is mindset? So, your mindset is a set of beliefs that shape how you make sense of the world and yourself. It influences how you think, feel, and behave in any given situation. Your mindset is very, very important, yet, many people are not aware of their mindset. And so let's define mastery, the second part of this. Mastery is a comprehensive knowledge or skill in a subject or control or superiority over something. So let's put it together. What is mindset mastery? It's controlling your beliefs and enhancing your skills related to your own well being. When you have mindset mastery, you are in control of your own well being. You have the skill set, you have the knowledge to do everything you can to control that. Not everything is within your control, but there certainly is a lot under your control. And we want to make sure when you have a mindset mastery moving forward that you recognize what is under your control what you can control, especially when it comes to your well being. And the reason that's so important is because people with high levels of well being end up performing better at work. Very important, right? Have more satisfying relationships, more cooperative, stronger immune systems. They live longer, fewer sleep problems, have lower levels of burnout, and greater self-control. Sign me up. So your own well-being is not just for you. It actually affects all kinds of positive things in your life and affects other people in a positive way. One way of saying this is that happiness fuels success, not the other way around. We have it backwards. This comes from the research of Sean A. Core. And so you want to be 31% more productive, increase your well-being. You want to be more engaged, more creative, less stress, increase your own well-being. So increase your own well-being, master your own well-being, and the rest will be positive as well. But how do we do it? So this is The How of Happiness, a great book by Sonia Lieber-Mirsky out of UC Riverside. And she talks about something very important called the happiness set point. So we all have a happiness set point, and some of us can boost that happiness set point for a short period of time, and then we seem to come back to a certain level. Or things can go south for us for a little bit, but we come back to a certain level. That's called the happiness set point. There was research back in 1978 where they studied lottery winners, and they started to realize that within a year, people who won the lottery returned to their original happiness set points before they won the lottery. So it didn't really affect it long term. So how do we actually change our happiness set point and raise it up? Well, 50% is genetics. And so, yes, some kids came out, skipping and whistling, and maybe you were one of those kids who came out of the womb that way. Or maybe not. Maybe you were a little bit more challenged. You don't control that part, but the other 50% you do control. And unfortunately, a lot of people focus on this life circumstances. They think if they change their life circumstances, they'll increase their happiness set point by a great deal. And unfortunately, that new job, that new car, that new house, whatever, does not boost your happiness set point by that much. And that's because of hedonic adaptation, which is just a fancy way of saying we set our new normal. It boosts us for a while, but then we just get used to that new level of living, and that's our new normal. And so if we really want to change our happiness set point, we got to focus on our thoughts and actions. That's where 40% of our control is under our thoughts and actions. And these are really daily thoughts and actions. Now, depending on the research you look at, 6,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day, and 80% are negative. And some of that is negativity bias, selective attention, where we used to, as cavemen and women, have to look and scan for whatever is negative. Where's that saber-toothed tiger going to jump out of the woods behind that bush? Okay, I've got to be looking for threats. We don't have to worry about that nearly as much, at least on my walk to work. There's not any saber-toothed tigers, but you understand that we still have that kind of selective attention looking around for what may be negative. We can change that and start looking for what is positive. We also sometimes have this ability where we get 9 compliments on our shirt one day, and one person says, that's an ugly shirt. We go home. What are we thinking about? The 9 compliments? No, we're thinking about that one person who said something negative. And so we got to overcome this negativity bias. And especially since that 95% of our thoughts are repetitive thoughts, the same thoughts we had yesterday. So our thoughts are very, very important. And being aware of our thoughts is very, very important. But so are our actions. 43% of human behavior is habitual, depending on the study you look at, but that's about half our life. We're not thinking about what we're doing. It's a habitual action. So again, what's the solution to all of this and raising our happiness set point? We got to stop sleepwalking through life. And another way of saying that, we need to have mindset mastery. And so that's what this talk is all about today. And so I'm going to give you 5 tips to help you with your mindset mastery. And then as you're working with clients and working with students, you can help them with their mindset mastery. And the first tip is win the morning, win the day. So here's a question for you. How did you start your day today? Did you hit the snooze button 5 times? Did you think about your to-do list as soon as you woke up? Did you do what a lot of people do, which is grab their phone and start looking at their emails, their Twitter feeds, Instagram, whatever it may be? Check your email, grab a huge cup of coffee, just go straight for the shower, think about calling in sick. I mean, these are very, very common. So what you can do if you so desire right now is you can pause this just for a minute or two, pair up and ask your partner how they started their day and answer the same question for them. So you can hit pause now if you'd like, and then we'll keep moving forward here in a couple minutes. Okay, so now that you've thought about how you started your day or how you most often start your days, how can you win the morning? How can you change that? Because you always have time for the things you put first. So a great book called The Miracle Morning, where Hal Elrod, who had a near-death experience, started to study very successful and happy people. And he realized they all had some sort of morning ritual where they did 1 to 6 of these things. And so he actually carved out time where he started doing all of these things. You could pick one if you're not currently doing any of them, or add a second, or maybe try to do all 6, but he calls it SAVERS. That's the acronym. And so, starting with some meditation in the morning, affirmations, visualizations, exercise, reading, and then scribing or journaling. And so try it out. I think a morning routine is very important, and you can ask yourself, what would work for you? And I know it's difficult. I've got young children myself, but sometimes just getting up 20 minutes early and doing 1 or 2 of these and making that part of your day every day. And that starts to be a part of your day that really shifts everything for your day. And so it's really important how you start your day. Okay, so let's keep moving. Mastery mindset tip number 2, be present. So there's a lot of research about how often we are not mentally where we are physically. And the statistic is about 47% of the time, we are not mentally where we are physically. We're daydreaming, we're thinking about other thoughts. You might say, well, what's the problem with that? Well, they found a correlation that people who are not present were less happy, they're less likely to be flourishing. And so we've got to come back to the present and be in the moment. So my question to you is, what have you been thinking about so far during this talk? I know we're getting close to lunch for some people, perhaps. And so you're thinking about food, you're thinking about your grocery list, your relationship, something that happened yesterday, something that's coming up tomorrow or later this week. Maybe you've been thinking about how much I look like Jeff Bezos. I don't know. I got that a couple times, but I don't see it. Anyway, what have you been thinking about? And has your mind drifted? Because likely it has during this talk. And so you've got to come back and help control your mind so that you stay present. So there's a few tips that you can do, and you might have some other ideas as well. But one thing that I recommend is looking and noting the eye color of everyone you talk to. This will help you, stay present and really be engaged with the person who's talking to you. Also, you can go about your day giving out awards. So you can walk around campus and give out these fictional awards, and you can do it with someone, a partner, and say, hey, let's do the award game. Or you can just do it in your mind where you're looking for, okay, that's the most beautiful flower. Oh, coolest shoes, most awesome hairstyle, best architecture. You just give out these different awards that allow you to do 2 things: 1, to stay present, but 2, to also start training your mind to look for the good. And neuroplasticity is a real thing where you train your reticular activating system in the brain. This is neuroscience, mumbo jumbo for some of you, but basically the idea is that we control what's important for us to pay attention to. That's why if I said your name, Hassan, or Jill or whomever, as soon as you hear your name, even if you're at a crowded party, you can hear it across the room because you've told your brain that's a really important thing to pay attention to. You can do the same thing with pay attention to the good. So train your brain, train your mind to do that. And then be mindful and savor of your experiences. So that's really important too. So when you are enjoying that ice cream, bowl of ice cream, not to be thinking about other things, but to really be appreciating it or getting that massage or whatever it might be. So there's mindfulness practices, all kinds of things you can do to really be mindful and savor the moment. And that should help as well. Okay, mindful mastery tip number 3 is be authentic. And this is really important as there's a ton of research about levels of well-being associated with how authentic you are and how true to yourself you are being. And so sometimes we are very hard on ourselves. Anybody kind of, have that kind of high standard for themselves, maybe very lenient with others, but for themselves, very high standards. So what I'm going to have you do now is act as if act the way your best friend would describe you. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to write down the 3 words your best friend would likely use to describe you. This is no time to be humble or anything like that. I want you to think about how your best friend would describe you. And I just want you to write the first 3 words that come to mind. So do that now. You can take a minute or so if you want to pause this. You're welcome to pause it. Okay, and now that you've written the 3 words down, what I want you to do is I want you to go around the room and introduce yourself to people using those words. So for example, the 3 words I write down that my best friend would probably describe me as is funny, caring, and unique. So I'm going to go around the room if I were there and I would say, hi, I'm Jordan. I'm funny, caring, and unique. Maybe a fist bump or whatever you're comfortable with. So I want you to do this, find 3 to 5 people. And once you've done that, you can go sit down. So you want to pause this right now, get up if you're capable of walking around and introduce yourself with your name and the 3 words that your best friend would describe you as. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that activity. And now your goal is to live each day proving your best friend right. So be authentic. Be that person your best friend knows you truly are. Show up, find ways to exemplify those characteristics every single day. And at the end of the day, you can say, hey, how authentic was I today? Did I actually, demonstrate that I am that person my best friend knows I am? Mastery mindset tip number 4, be thankful. All kinds of research done about the power of gratitude. So the question I have is, do you have some sort of ritual related to gratitude that you invest in every single day? A gratitude journal is a great way to do that. So we're just going to, practice what that feels like. So again, get out something to write with, and I want you to write down 5 things you're grateful for. And write down 5 things that you're grateful for today. So enjoy, whatever it may be, write down the 5 things from today or that are currently happening in your life that you're grateful for. So do that right now. You might want to press pause, and then we will continue in just a moment. So take a minute and do that. Okay. So hopefully you wrote down 5 things you're grateful for. Now what I want you to do is I want you to think of someone you could send a thank you letter to. Somebody you haven't thanked in a while, somebody who maybe did something positive for you in your life. And I want you to write down that person's name. And I want you to commit to writing them a thank you letter. It could be a handwritten letter, it could be an email, whatever you want to do. But make sure you do it by the end of this weekend. And this is a great exercise. I remember doing this exercise actually with, I wrote to the person who gave my commencement speech in college that I referenced at the beginning of this talk. And I wrote to him and just said, I hope you know that I was in the audience that day and your talk really had an effect on me and I implemented it. And my friend and I, who were standing next to each other that day, still talk about your commencement speech. And he wrote back to me and said, "Oh, wow, I've retired. And sometimes I think back, did I make any difference at all? And your note meant more than I could ever express to you." And then he said, "And as a thank you for your thank you, I've attached the entire script of that commencement address. And so now I have that, which is, really, really cool." So think of someone, write that person's name down in front of you so that you commit to writing to them a thank you. And it could be something small they did, something big they've done. Even if you thanked them in the past, it's not, you can never thank them too much. And then as you eat today, commit to expressing appreciation to someone today at lunch. Any little thing, appreciate the person who ordered all the food, who coordinated it, or just appreciate somebody who's wearing, a pair of shoes that you think are really cool. Just never miss a chance to express a compliment. And definitely today, at least express one at lunch. And our final mastery mindset tip, number 5, is be of service. So a lot of the reason so many people are, feeling less well-being than they possibly could is that they're not thinking about how they can best serve others and use their talents to serve others. And Gallup's done a ton of research about this. And so the proof is in the pudding. Using your strengths regularly will increase your engagement 6 times at work, but it will also increase your well-being. And so thinking about this statement, don't try to enjoy where you do not bring joy. So as you were thinking about, this retreat and everything that was going to happen today, some of you were like, boy, I hope it's good. I hope it's not boring. But were you also thinking about how can I help to make it a really engaging, interesting day, positive energy? What did you bring with you rather than what you could get out of the situation? And so use your greatest strengths regularly. Again, getting in touch with what those strengths are is really important. And so we're going to do an exercise right now to make sure that you haven't forgotten your greatest strengths. And so I want you to text your best friend. So we're thinking about our best friend a lot today. If you have 3 different friends that you consider best friends or family members that you consider best friends, no problem. You can text more than one person. But I do recommend not a group text, just individual text, and say the following: I'm in a workshop doing an exercise, so please write back right away. That'll encourage them to write back quickly. And then what would you say are my 3 greatest strengths? And that's it. That's the text. And I know this is a little vulnerable for some of you who've never done this before, but it can be really, really powerful to see how others see you, especially those that know you really well. And it's also fun if you text multiple people to see the common traits that are described and know which ones that are most common. And so, you know, I did this with you can go ahead and be doing this as I'm talking. So go ahead and get your phones out and text away. But, I did this with my 4 brothers a number of years ago, and many of them wrote back something very sarcastic and silly at first. I think my oldest brother said, "One of your greatest strengths is interrupting me while I'm at work with your silly exercises." So that was kind of funny. But then they all did write back, and there were some common themes, about, being caring, being responsible. And it really made a difference to me to remember how others see me, and that those really are some of my greatest strengths. Of course, some of you have probably taken, Clifton strengths and know what your strengths are in that regard, but this is just another way to get at it. And then each day, think about, how did I implement those strengths? The more often you're using those strengths, the more often you will feel like you are being of service to others, which will lead to higher well-being. And lastly, don't forget just to smile. And you can look up the fun, research on this. But, if you're capable right now, as you look up, just lock eyes with someone and give them a smile. And what's going to happen, right? When you do this, as you walk down the street or across campus, what happens? The other person smiles back, and you've got mirror neurons at work there. But there's also research done that people who are smiling are seen more as attractive, credible, and kind. And so I always say to people going into a job interview, it's to your advantage to smile, that's for sure. But even when you're just walking down the street, you think, I don't have anything to give, you can always give a smile, and that will boost your well-being. Okay, so let's do a quick summary of what we talked about today. Be intentional with your morning. be present, be authentic, be thankful, and be of service. The acronym is IPATS. So IPATS, not iPads, but IPATS. And, if you are so inclined, perhaps your team will have a little symbol where you pat yourself on the back, as you walk by someone on your team. And that's just a little acknowledgement like, hey, number one, if you're waiting for someone to pat you on your back, sometimes you're waiting a long time, but it can feel good. You're like, hey, I'm doing a good job. But it's also you saying to that person, hey, I'm working on my own well-being. I'm working on my mindset mastery. And they can pat themselves back and say, so am I. And that's kind of the code. And I think that would be incredible culture. You can take this and run with it if you want, but really that's a true commitment to really having mindset mastery, and your team will benefit. And hopefully it's kind of fun to do that as you walk by each other, and you can walk out of here today and forget everything I said and not implement any of it. But if you see someone else who is implementing it, that can remind you, wait a second, what am I doing with my mornings? How present am I? Maybe you're walking by someone, you can tell they're totally daydreaming and they're not present, but you do one of these and they go, oh yeah, here, let me come back to the moment, whatever it may be. Anyway, I hope this was helpful to you. I hope that you feel like you're on your way to having mindset mastery. I look forward to staying in touch with you. You can check out my website where you'll see talks I've given, links to the social media at Captain Inspiration on Instagram, at Captain_Inspiration. And then LinkedIn, if we're not already connected. I'm hopeful that, by right before you go to bed tonight, you'll at least have sent me a connection request on LinkedIn, and I'll get a whole bunch of new connections, and happy to connect with you and talk further about how this impacted you or any questions you might have. So thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity. Hope you have a great rest of the day. I'm going to stop my share right there, and I look forward to meeting down the road. Thanks so much for your time.